Emotional intelligence isn't just about being nice, it's your shield. But when a narcissist sees that shield, they panic. And what happens next will shock you. Carl Jung discovered something disturbing about human psychology that most people never realize. He said that when someone's psychological defenses are threatened, they don't just retreat, they escalate. And nowhere is this more dangerous than when a narcissist encounters someone they simply cannot manipulate. But here's what Jung never told you about the final phase of narcissistic manipulation. You see, there are 3 stages to how a narcissist responds when they realize you're too emotionally intelligent for their games. The first 2 are obvious. The third, it's so calculated, so devastating that even the most aware people fall for it. Stage 1 is what Jung called the initial probe. The narcissist tests your boundaries with small manipulations. Love bombing, guilt trips, subtle put-downs disguised as jokes. According to Carl Jung's research on psychological types, they're essentially running diagnostics on your emotional responses, looking for cracks in your armor. But here's where it gets interesting. When you don't react the way they expect, when your emotional intelligence kicks in and you see through their tactics, something shifts. Carl Jung said that narcissists operate from what he termed the inflated ego, a psychological state where they genuinely believe they're superior to everyone around them. So when they encounter someone who doesn't fall for their manipulation, it creates what Jung called a narcissistic injury, and that's when stage 2 begins. They escalate. Suddenly the subtle manipulations become overt attacks. The love bombing turns into emotional withholding. The jokes become direct insults. Jung discovered that this escalation serves 2 purposes. It's both a test and a punishment. They're testing to see if increased pressure will break your emotional intelligence while simultaneously punishing you for having it in the first place. But what happens when even this doesn't work? This is where most people think the narcissist will give up and move on. After all, why waste energy on someone who won't be controlled? Here's what Jung discovered that changes everything. Narcissists don't just want to control you, they need to destroy the very thing that makes you uncontrollable. Your emotional intelligence becomes their greatest threat, and they'll do anything to eliminate it. Which brings us to stage 3, the final dirty trick that even emotionally intelligent people fall for. Carl Jung called this phenomenon psychological projection, but in the context of narcissistic manipulation, it becomes something far more sinister. When a narcissist realizes they can't break your emotional intelligence through direct assault, they don't attack you anymore. They attack your perception of reality itself. This is where it gets truly disturbing. According to Carl Jung's studies on the shadow self, narcissists will begin to systematically dismantle your confidence in your own emotional intelligence. They'll use a combination of 3 devastating tactics that work together like a psychological 1-2-3 punch. The first tactic, reality distortion through false consensus. They'll start gathering allies, mutual friends, family members, colleagues, and slowly poison them against you. But here's the twist that Jung identified. They don't just spread lies about you, they spread lies about your emotional intelligence itself. Have you noticed how your name always thinks they know what people are feeling? They'll say it's actually pretty manipulative if you think about it. The second tactic, emotional baiting with a purpose. Jung discovered that narcissists will deliberately trigger your emotional responses, then use those responses as evidence that you're not as emotionally intelligent as you think. They'll push and push until you finally react with anger or frustration, then immediately shift into victim mode. See, I knew you weren't as calm and collected as you pretend to be. Your emotional intelligence is just an act, but it's the third tactic that's the most devastating. Carl Jung called it the inversion of strengths. The narcissist will take your greatest strength, your emotional intelligence, and convince you it's actually your greatest weakness. They'll say things like, "You're so busy analyzing everyone's emotions that you miss what's really happening." Or "Your need to understand people is just another form of control." Or the most devastating, "People only tolerate your emotional intelligence because they feel sorry for you." And here's why this works even on emotionally intelligent people. Jung discovered that our greatest strengths often hide our deepest insecurities. People with high emotional intelligence often develop that skill as a survival mechanism, maybe from a chaotic childhood, maybe from being sensitive in a harsh world. The narcissist instinctively identifies this origin story and attacks it. They're not just questioning your emotional intelligence, they're attacking the part of you that needed to develop it in the first place. But here's what Jung discovered about fighting back. The key isn't to defend your emotional intelligence, it's to recognize the pattern. Carl Jung said that once you can see the psychological game being played, you've already won half the battle. The narcissist's final dirty trick only works if you don't see it coming. When you recognize that they're trying to gaslight you about your own emotional intelligence, when you see them building false consensus against you, when you catch them baiting you into reactions they can use against you, their power evaporates. According to Carl Jung, this is the moment of psychological liberation, because here's what the narcissist never expects: that you'll recognize their final gambit not as an attack on your emotional intelligence but as the ultimate proof of it. Only someone with genuine emotional intelligence would be enough to trigger such a desperate calculated response. Jung discovered that narcissists only deploy their most sophisticated manipulation tactics against people they genuinely fear. Your emotional intelligence isn't just protecting you from their manipulation, it's exposing their deepest psychological wounds. And that's why they're so desperate to destroy it. But here's the final twist that Jung never fully explored: when you maintain your emotional intelligence in the face of this psychological assault, something remarkable happens. The narcissist's mask doesn't just slip, it shatters completely. They become so desperate to prove you're not as emotionally intelligent as you think that they reveal exactly how manipulative they really are. They defeat themselves. Carl Jung said that the unconscious always seeks to balance itself. When a narcissist tries to destroy your emotional intelligence, they unconsciously reveal their own emotional bankruptcy. When they try to convince others you're manipulative, they demonstrate their own manipulation. When they try to gaslight you about your perceptions, they prove your perceptions were accurate all along. Your emotional intelligence becomes the mirror that reflects their true nature back at them. And that's when you realize the most powerful truth Jung ever discovered about narcissistic manipulation. The only way they can truly hurt you is if you let them convince you that your greatest strength is actually a weakness. But now you know their final dirty trick. Now you can see the pattern. Now you understand that their desperate attempt to destroy your emotional intelligence is actually the ultimate validation of it. Because if your emotional intelligence wasn't real, wasn't powerful, wasn't protecting you, they wouldn't be trying so hard to destroy it. Thank you so much for staying with me through this exploration. If you found value in today's discussion, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and share this video with someone who might benefit from it. And if you'd like to go a step further in supporting this work, you can now leave a super thanks below. It's a small way to say thank you and it truly helps keep this channel going.